Why saying less can be a powerful form of self-respect. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and thought to yourself, I didn't need to say all that? Maybe it was with your son, your daughter-in-law, a neighbor, or even an old friend from church. You replay the words in your mind, wondering if maybe you shared too much or tried too hard to explain yourself. And somewhere deep inside, it just didn't sit right. As we get older, we start to see the world differently. We've lived through enough sunrises and storms to understand that not every silence needs to be filled, not every opinion needs to be voiced, and not every misunderstanding needs to be cleared up. There's a quiet kind of power that comes from simply saying less. But that's not what we were taught, was it? We grew up believing that speaking up meant strength. That being heard meant we mattered. And for many years, maybe that was true. We had to fight to be understood, in our families, in our careers, even in our marriages. But now, at this stage of life, something shifts. Because now, when you choose to say less, it's not because you're weak. It's because you finally realize that your peace is worth more than being right. That protecting your energy matters more than winning the argument. That silence, when chosen with intention, can speak louder than 1,000 words ever could. I remember a woman I met at a senior center in Arizona. Her name was Clara, a retired nurse with a warm smile and eyes that had clearly seen it all. One afternoon, over coffee, she told me about a family dinner where her grown children were arguing, again, over something trivial. She could have stepped in, shared her thoughts, tried to mediate like she always used to. But this time, she just sipped her tea and listened. When I asked her why she didn't say anything, she said, I've learned that peace at the table is sometimes more important than proving a point. That stayed with me. Because what Clara did, what she chose not to do, wasn't passive. It was powerful. She protected her inner calm. She gave her presence, not her opinion. And in doing so, she reminded everyone in that room that maturity isn't about being louder. It's about being wiser. Sometimes, saying less is how we reclaim our dignity. When someone speaks to us with disrespect or tries to drag us into drama, the instinct is to defend, to explain, to justify. But what if, instead, we took a breath and let our silence do the talking? Not the kind of silence that feels defeated, but the kind that says, I know who I am. I don't need to explain myself to you. There's a certain elegance in restraint. A grace that comes from not needing to react to everything. And especially after 60, when our time and emotional bandwidth become more precious than ever, that restraint becomes a kind of self-respect. Think about how many times a small argument turned into a big rift, just because we kept going, kept pushing, kept trying to be understood. What if we had simply paused, taken a step back, and chosen not to feed the fire? That doesn't mean we suppress our voice or let others walk all over us. No. It means we learn to choose our words with care. We learn that not every moment is worth our emotional investment. Saying less doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care enough about yourself to conserve your energy for the things and people that truly matter. You don't have to explain your decisions to everyone. You don't have to justify your feelings to people who won't understand them anyway. You don't have to correct every misconception or fix every misunderstanding. There's a freedom that comes when you stop feeling responsible for how others perceive you. When you trust that your silence doesn't make you invisible, it makes you discerning. You see, with age comes wisdom, but only if we let it. And part of that wisdom is realizing that words are like currency. The more carefully we spend them, the more valuable they become. You don't need to give your voice away to every conflict, every complaint, every criticism. Let people think what they want. Let them gossip. Let them misunderstand. At the end of the day, you don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. So, next time you're in a situation that makes your chest tighten and your mouth open to defend yourself, try something new. Pause. Breathe. And ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Because if the answer is no, then saying less might just be the most powerful thing you can do. There's something deeply healing about giving yourself permission to say less. Not in a way that hides your truth, but in a way that honors it. Because here's the thing, when you stop trying to convince others of your worth, you start actually feeling it. Have you noticed how much energy it takes to explain yourself to people who've already made up their minds? You could have all the facts, all the stories, all the logic in the world, and it still wouldn't matter. Because some people don't want to understand you. They want to win. And you? You don't need to win anymore. You've already earned your place in this life simply by living through all that you have. I once spoke to a man named Henry. He was a retired firefighter, widowed, and in his 70s. He told me about how his daughter often made him feel like he had to justify every little thing he did. Why he wanted to eat out instead of cooking. Why he didn't want to babysit on short notice. Why he didn't feel like talking some days. One day, he said, I just stopped explaining. I started saying, no, that doesn't work for me. And that was it. He told me that at first, she pushed back. She didn't understand. But eventually, she adjusted. And Henry? He felt lighter. He wasn't carrying the burden of over-explaining himself anymore. He had finally drawn a boundary, not with a loud voice, not with anger, but with quiet clarity. That's what saying less can do for us. It creates space for clarity. It teaches others how to treat us without having to shout or scold or repeat ourselves 100 times. It's a way of standing tall without raising your voice. When you're constantly explaining, you may start to feel like you're always on trial. Like you have to prove your goodness, your intentions, your reasons. But you don't. You don't have to prove anything anymore. You can simply be. And being, just being, is enough. Sometimes, we say too much because we're afraid of being misunderstood. But here's the truth, people who truly care about you will make the effort to understand you. And the ones who don't. No amount of explaining will ever be enough. Saying less doesn't mean you shut down or withdraw. It means you're no longer in the business of chasing approval. It means you choose dignity over drama. It means you honor your emotions, but you don't let them control your every word. Have you ever been in a conversation where you felt the urge to keep talking, to fill the silence, to smooth over the awkwardness, even though your gut told you to stop? Maybe someone made a passive comment about your lifestyle, your choices, your habits. And you felt that familiar fire rising in your chest. You wanted to correct them. Defend yourself. Prove them wrong. But what if, instead, you took a moment and didn't? What if you let them sit with their own assumptions? What if your silence became your answer? Sometimes, the strongest reply is none at all. It doesn't mean you're ignoring what happened. It means you're choosing not to hand over your peace in exchange for their misunderstanding. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. And when you begin to trust that silence can be powerful, something remarkable happens. You start listening more, to yourself, to others, to the moments between the words. You stop rushing to fill the air. You start hearing what's really being said. This kind of listening isn't passive. It's intentional. It's focused. And it gives you time to respond, not just react. Because after 60, our time is too valuable to be spent on emotional ping pong. We don't have to attend every argument we're invited to. We don't have to carry every emotional burden someone tries to hand us. There's a calmness that grows when you practice this kind of restraint. People begin to notice. They feel the shift. You may even see them treating you differently, not because you demanded it, but because you modeled it. Your presence starts to speak for you. Your calm becomes your boundary. Your silence, your strength. And little by little, something else begins to grow, self-trust. Because every time you say less, every time you choose not to explain, every time you protect your peace instead of defending your ego, you tell yourself, I am enough. I don't need to be louder to be heard. It's not easy at first. Old habits take time to unlearn. But once you begin, you'll wonder why you didn't start sooner. You'll find yourself in the middle of conversations, smiling gently, saying fewer words, but feeling more in control. Not controlling others, but yourself. And that's the kind of control that truly matters. There's a quiet kind of confidence that settles in when you stop needing to explain yourself all the time. It's not the loud, flashy kind. It doesn't announce itself. It simply is. You walk into a room differently. You listen more. You speak when you truly have something to say, and not because you feel obligated to fill the space. That's not silence from fear. That's silence from strength. A woman once told me something that I've never forgotten. Her name was June, and she was in her late 60s. She said, "I used to think that people respected me more when I spoke up. Now I know they respect me more when I speak wisely." That distinction, speaking wisely, stuck with me. Because wisdom doesn't rush. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It simply waits, and speaks when the moment is right. That's the gift of this stage in life. You've earned the right to speak only when you feel moved to. You don't have to chase respect anymore. You embody it. There's also a beautiful byproduct of saying less that we don't always talk about. People start to lean in. When you're not constantly offering your opinion, when you're not rushing to speak over others or defend every little thing, your words begin to carry more weight. They land differently. People listen, not out of politeness, but because your voice has become intentional. It means something. And not just to them, but to you. Because when you speak less, you become more aware of what you're really thinking. You're not just reacting, you're reflecting. And that reflection gives you clarity. It gives you power. It gives you a sense of peace that can't be shaken by someone else's rudeness or carelessness or misunderstanding. You become your own sanctuary. That doesn't mean you don't have moments of frustration or anger or sadness. Of course you do. But instead of unleashing those feelings into words that can't be taken back, you learn to hold them. To sit with them. To choose when and how they deserve to be expressed. That's emotional maturity. That's self-respect. Sometimes, self-respect looks like walking away from a conversation that's going nowhere. Sometimes it looks like smiling and saying, "I see your point," when what you really mean is, "This isn't worth my peace." And sometimes, it's just a quiet nod, a deep breath, and a choice not to engage. It takes practice. It takes patience. And above all, it takes trust in yourself. Trust that your worth isn't in how much you say. It's in how you live, how you show up, how you carry yourself. You don't need to explain why you're tired. Or why you changed your mind. Or why you no longer respond to negativity with more negativity. You don't need permission to protect your peace. If someone misunderstands your silence, that's okay. If they think you're being distant, cold, or unfriendly, let them. You know your heart. You know your intentions. And more importantly, you know that your silence isn't a wall, it's a filter. It lets in what nourishes you and keeps out what drains you. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to live in a way that honors your soul. That respects your boundaries. That values your time. So the next time you find yourself in a moment where you feel the urge to explain, to fix, to prove, pause. Ask yourself, am I saying this to bring peace or to feel validated? If it's the latter, maybe silence is the better gift. Not just to them, but to yourself. Saying less doesn't mean you disappear. It means you become more intentional, more grounded, more powerful. You begin to move through life with a softness that doesn't make you weak, but makes you unshakable. And isn't that what we all want, especially now? To feel whole. To feel free. To feel steady in a world that's always pulling us in different directions. You've earned that steadiness. You've earned the right to choose calm over chaos. You've earned the right to say, I don't have to say everything I think. I don't have to explain everything I do. You've earned the right to rest in your own quiet strength. So here's to you, and to the power of saying less, but meaning more. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share a story in the comments, one of those moments where you chose silence and found peace. Or just let us know you're here, walking this path of strength and self-respect right alongside us. If you found this helpful, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We share new stories and reflections every week, created with love for those of us walking this beautiful, sometimes messy, always meaningful stage of life. Until next time, take care of your heart, protect your peace, and never forget the quiet power that lives inside you.